So something I haven't talked about yet is that my first class that I ever leveled to 80 was Astrologian. And let me give you some tips and pointers to help you with that. So let's hop right into it. Let me show you some things that might help make your Astrologian life a little bit easier. What's up, good people? It's your Final Fantasy homie Jay. And one of the first things that you want to get in the habit of doing is using draw before a fight. As soon as you enter an instance, as soon as you start a dungeon, as soon as you load into a trial, go ahead and use draw the first time. What that does is that go ahead and starts counting down your cooldown for your second draw. So by the time the fight starts, you actually can do 2 draws really quick. That's going to give you 2 symbols really fast. And Astrologians, we love our symbols because 3 different symbols gives everybody an amazing, I think 6% team buff damage for 15 seconds. And that's what we live for. We live for the big damage, baby. Well, not us doing the big damage, the team doing the big damage, but you get what I'm saying? So you want to make sure that you use the draw early. That way you can go ahead and let the cooldown cycle through. By the time you get to where you need to go, you got a second draw ready. Now you got 2 symbols already ready to go. And you only need 1 more to be able to do that team buff. Tip for you though, and this one's pretty important, I had to learn this one by myself, is that you want to make sure that you damage a minion, damage a monster before you give any of your buffs to anybody, because some reason the game has it where if you haven't damaged anything first and you use your buff, the symbol doesn't count. And the buff gets applied, but the symbol does not go to one, it does not sit into your slot as a symbol slot. And my Astrologians, you know what I mean, you'll see what I'm talking about in the videos that are playing. But you want to make sure that you're using a damage. So I usually throw on Combust. Once we get into a crowd, I throw on Combust, and then I start using my cards and handing out buffs. And then from there, you're good to go. So use draw. Use draw early. That way you can actually get 2 draws off in the beginning of a fight. That'll definitely speed up the buff process. The second tip that I want to share with you, and I'm going to completely butcher this. I'm only going to say it once. Use your sect your Regen passive stance for 90% of the time. You'll want to put that on, because one thing about Final Fantasy is that Regen actually stacks. So if you have a white mage who uses Regen, your Regen will actually stack with that white mage, so then people are getting double Regen, where Nocturnal gives shields, and shields do not stack in this game. So whenever you're paired with another Astrologian who may be using Nocturnal, or you're paired with a Scholar, do not use Nocturnal for those 2 reasons, because shields do not stack. Actually, shields overrides the last shield. So if you throw on a shield and then Scholar throws on a shield, it doesn't double the shield, it just gets rid of yours and applies theirs. Now you waste the mana, you've been inefficient because you're not doing anything, you actually just cancel each other out. So your Regen stance is the safe one to go with 90% of the time. But Nocturnal is great for those people who know the fights. If you know the fight and you know when to apply a shield that's going to help with an AoE, unguardable AoE move, and it's going to do a lot of damage, Nocturnal is great for people who have studied some of the fights and know when to use shields, because shields are great to mitigate damage. They're not good if they're not being used. Unlike Regen, where Regen kind of just keep things ticked. Shields are super important for people who know the fight. If you know the fight, you can mitigate so much damage. And Nocturnals for those elites who can pull that off and know when to pop the shield because a massive AoE is about to happen, or somebody's about to take or the tank's about to take a damage buster. So Nocturnal is using that specialized way, but do not use it with another Scholar or another Astrologian who has Nocturnal, because shields don't stack. Remember that, they do not stack. So this one I think is a really quick tip, but it's so important, is that to figure out, because each card, there's 2 types of cards. There's a card that gives melee buffs. They both give buffs, but if you give it to the appropriate fighter, it gives an additional bonus buff, and there's a melee buff and there's a ranged buff. And I think if you give it to the right person, it gives it a 4% buff. If you give it to the wrong type, it gives a 2% buff. My percentages could be wrong, but I believe that's what it is. But what you want to do is, actually the cards tell you exactly who you should go over to. If you have a card that has crosses on the left and right side of the card, that is for your melee champion, melee jobs. That is tank and any melee DPS. You can apply it to the tank if you don't have a melee DPS to help you with that. And any card with the circles on the left and right side of the card goes to your range. That also includes healers. If you don't have any range DPS, pop it on your healer, get that extra bonus, and do some great damage. That tip is important, because it took me well over 2 months to figure out how to do that. I was trying to remember cards by heart. This one is for my higher end astrologians. Horoscope is a very confusing spell if you don't take the time to actually try to figure out what the heck it's talking about. So I'm trying to make it really simple for you. Horoscope is an ability that you activate and it applies to people in a certain radius. And after 10 seconds, it will heal for a little bit. Or you apply horoscope, and within that 10 seconds, if you use any of your AoE moves, it promotes horoscope to a Helios horoscope, which means that now the activation will go off in 30 seconds and it would do like twice as much healing. It's an amazing ability that I love so much because it's like it's like setting up a pre-heal. Like if you know that at a certain point when the boss gets a certain amount of health that he does this certain move, you can apply horoscope and then do your AoE horoscope and just let it sit there for the whole 30 seconds. And then after the 30 seconds, it heals every single person who had that bonus applied for a great amount of health. It completely can make healing so much easier. I wanted to share that tip because I had to do some research on exactly how this works, and I wanted to make it super easy for you. So at level 76, you'll get horoscope, look at it, and then come back to the video and you'll see what I'm talking about. This tip can be applied to any healer. But since we're talking about astrologian, I figured I'd throw it in this video. Save your regen when you're doing raids, when you're doing dungeons, when you're doing anything. Save your regen to after the tank does his pull. I've seen new healers use regen pre-pull, and when you do that, regen actually gives you the aggro, so it can throw off your tank, because once you pop regen on your tank, all the mobs are going to run at you. Regen gives you aggro, and it's something that you kind of have to get used to, is waiting to after the tank starts pulling the mobs and then use your regen, because then you won't take any aggro and you can keep everything smooth. So hold out on the regen. I see it happen quite a bit. I want to make sure I help you out, show you some love. Make sure that you know why it's happening. It's because regen actually gives you aggro, and it gives you aggro for everything in the vicinity. So you can actually pull all the mobs to you by accident if you apply regen too early. Just let the mob do its thing, let the tank do its thing first. Grab all the mobs, you get that regen on that bad boy, and then you're good to go. Get to work. If you're rocking Astrologian and you got other tips, leave them in the comments below, because I want to build a community that helps each other grow, help each other share knowledge, because if we can share knowledge with each other, we can be the best version of ourselves, and we will be able to help all our other people get better at the classes that we love to play. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, if it helped you in any way, give it a big thumbs up and think about subscribing, hanging out with me. I'm a pretty cool dude. I think I'm pretty cool, but you might think so too. So hit the subscribe button. You can see every video. We do weekly Final Fantasy stuff here. If you want to chill me on my personal level, and shout out to all the people who have been following me on my Twitch. My Twitch link is below. We have a good time there. We laugh, joke, talk about classes, and talk about how many times I die. It's a good moment. So come on, hang by, and have a great conversation with me. And as always, be the warriors of light in real life and continue to help people and change the world in a more positive way. And I'll see y'all on the next video. Like, look, y'all have a good night. I gotta go finish unpacking because this new apartment isn't gonna take care of itself. See y'all later.